So I've been watching all my YouTube, how to be good at YouTube videos for last week. And one of them says is to make sure you start your live streams 15 minutes early. It says it takes 15 minutes for all, I mean, we don't have this problem, but if you have subscribers, then it takes about 15 minutes for all the notifications to get out there, for them to get like, oh, there's a notification or whatever. So I'm not recording, but we are live. And what I did is I just threw the GME ticker into not just the ticker, but like our normal opening screen. And then I threw the GME ticker in there. So nice. If you want to look at it, this is what is showing right now.
That's awesome.
So whatever.
I like it.
But I have the chat in here now. So like if people chat with us, I think I should be able to read them and we can respond to them in real time. They'll be able to see them on the screen too. So
that's cool.
So I think this will increase participation. Yeah, people just want to see their name on the fucking screen. Oh, look, here's me. I wrote that. So
I'm literally walking around everywhere I go with a list of clients that I have bought this shit for, so that I don't miss the squeeze. Like, so that I can literally get on my phone and sell the fucking this stuff if I have to. I put some big bets on this.
I'm rooting for it.
I had a guy, I bought $75,000 worth of SLV on Thursday. That dude's so fucking happy with me right now.
I would imagine, yeah.
And I just had a guy call me this morning. I'm putting $5,000 on AMC for him. I just haven't done it yet. I'm gonna wait and see if it goes below 14. If it goes below 14, I will literally put probably all $5,000 on AMC.
14.34 right now.
I know. It went down. I missed it this morning when it went below. It was only down for a second.
You never. I mean. Maybe there's indicators that people do know. Like, I would say I'm about 50% wrong. I'm like, okay, this is definitely a pump day at the beginning. Like, I would say, like, because I would say, especially when there's news, there's usually either a pump or a dump, like the beginning. There's something going on. People are like, they either know where the leverage is. Yeah. I think I know where it is, but I'm like, oh, I guess I don't. So, but there's always something goes on right at the fucking open, which is crazy. Just to know that it's all timed. But you know what I want to kind of bring up, which I heard somebody mention it, but they didn't really elaborate on it. They almost said it as an offhanded joke, but do you think Fox Business and CNBC are dead? Like they're going to fucking report fundamentals all day? Like they don't matter anymore. Like, in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? Like they're not just going to talk about fucking, they're not going to go to Reddit, WallStreetBets and just post their fucking shit. What are they going to do? Like what's going to be their model?
I mean, I don't know. Listen, we'll get into this on the show. How fucked up this got last week is
I know.
So hard to fathom.
I know.
Like, these guys are doing this because they're pretty sure they think the system is rigged, and they got you because they got you so over leveraged that you shouldn't be allowed to short 140% of stock. That's fucking insanity. As Joe Rogan likes to say, that's bananas. You shorted more shares than exist. What the fuck are you doing? My issue with it is this. Look, if you want to short sell, fine. I have no moral objection to short selling at all.
I actually think it probably, and I heard arguments to the fact that it probably provides a check on propping up shitty companies that like, oh shit, we're going down. And nobody's like, you're not fucking, you shouldn't be going up. You should be fucking going down. So they provide a check. All I say is, let the rules remain consistent for all players and let it be transparent. Boom. And then that's, the end result is the end result.
What I do take issue with on this is it's one thing to short a stock that you think it's going down. It's another to try to make a company go out of business. You're not investing anymore. Now you are actively influencing what's going on.
They're investing, but they are influencing. They're
don't short sell 140% because you think it's going down.
And I've saw nobody's brought this up other than like in small passing, but like things that I was thinking about after the fact is like, okay, well, if the Redditors all knew this was a play, like somebody else fucking had to know it was a play, right? Like, like a legit like hedge fund, you know what I mean? Like they had to be like going over there being like, oh my God, we could just fucking take these dudes. But they didn't.
Circle jerk.
They didn't, right?
That's why is because Melvin Capital knew that none of the other hedge funds were going to come after him. They knew that. They never thought that a bunch of fucking retards on Reddit were going to get together and be like,
listen, there's speculation out there that they were tipped off by other hedge funds. They're like, hey, look over here.
Yeah, but nobody's going to go after Melvin if you're in the business.
Listen, no, right, that's what I'm saying, right.
Because look at all the people behind them. So if you did this, now you've got Citadel coming after you.
No, you can see just what happened. Exactly right.
People coming to get you. But watching this happen in real time is amazing. I can't get over that picture I sent you where the guy's like, get rid of your 420.69 cells, you retards. Like, these are the dudes that just outmaneuvered a $13 billion hedge fund.
Yeah.
And they're making weed and sex jokes in their actual trades. Like, this is craziness. Oh, we're dropping.
I got GME at 270 here.
Yeah. I bought
But it was down to
for a client.
What did it get down to 213 when it halted?
Yeah.
211, I think it was.
I think it was like 213. I got it last week for a client, not my own account, but for a client. I got it at 191. Yeah, it was only 3 shares at 191.
And I'm sure that when, GME is still shorted like at 112%. I know. So like they didn't cover all of it. They just I think they got out of some of their fucking really toxic shit on Thursday. Yeah, and they were like, listen, we got to get rid of this or we're dead. Right. And they figured out how to get rid of whatever that was. I mean, this is just me like trying to figure out how this all fucking works, but I'm guessing that they saved themselves enough on Thursday. And still, I mean, they're still only buying one share, right? You're buying 8 shares, 1 share. Like, so they're because they're allowed to get the selling out faster than the buying, they're it's crazy that it's still 270. That's how much fucking people are in it at certain other prices. You know what I mean? Right. I know. It's crazy.
Like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen of these guys on Reddit. I call them idiots. Like, they're obviously fairly
They call themselves autists.
Autists and retards. Like, that's their 2 words for each other. Yes. Autists and retards. And it's basically like a joke to say, like, look, I'm not giving you financial advice, and I'm not telling you this is a wise investment. The guy that I talked to today that wants to put $5 grand on it. So listen, I need you to understand something. As your friend, I fully support this, and I think it's awesome. As your financial advisor, this is a terrible fucking idea. And he laughed. I was like, no, listen, I need you to really understand what I'm telling you right now. This is not investing. This is gambling. And he laughed. He's like, I know. I said, okay.
Yeah, it's gambling for sure, but it's literally YOLO gambling because it's just like, all right, I'll burn this. Yeah. I'll just flush this down the toilet if I needed to. Like, if you told me
you're okay losing.
Listen, but if you told me that you could, if you told me I could throw all of my silver and gold coins, whatever, into the fucking drink, and the federal government would collapse, I'd be like, I'll just fucking throw it. So everybody has their breaking point. You know what I mean? So.
This is the funniest part. Did you see that guy Deep fucking Value, like the first one in on this, got interviewed by the Wall Street Journal? Did you see this?
I didn't. I know that he did, but I didn't. Like, I know he's the one who made like 47 million or something, right?
Like 70 million.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, they asked him. They said, listen, you took 50 grand. It's worth like 50 or 60 million at this point. Like, what's your exit strategy? His response was, what's an exit strategy? To the Wall Street Journal. This fucking dude was like, I'm not exiting. I have no exit strategy. Listen, I like to think I'm a good person and I'm down for the cause. But if I had turned 10 grand into 3 million, I'm taking $1 million off the top.
Listen, I hope the cook at fucking Bellevue cashed out. You know what I mean? Like, he's like a 24-year-old dude who spent,
How much does he have?
He had 300 grand at some point.
Jesus
Well, I did the math myself. So when I was told he had it, I was told he had 150,000, and that was on Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, well, it was like 130 then. Like, it's 500 at one point. So.
All right, before we go on, I'm going to buy some shares here.
Oh, that's fun. 5 minutes.
Yeah, it'll take a minute.
This is, but just for the record, like the studio operating, the software for YouTube is fucking just, I can't even tell you how much better it is than Facebook.
Really?
It's so much better than,
that's good.
I guess I understand why it's YouTube, but it's like, oh, this is how Facebook wants it to be.
All right, I got a call.
Go ahead. Take it.
Okay. Hey, Phil, it's Ben Hussong calling. I'm an advisor with Catteray. Looking to buy some stock in my personal brokerage account. Rep ID is 006155. 43C 429560. Yep. 250 shares of AMC at the market. To the commissions. Beautiful. All right, Phil, thank you. That's all I needed. Have a great day. Bye. I'm waiting on GameStop a little bit longer.
And so this is something, and only because I just heard you say it, and I was going to look into it, and I don't look into it, but I was listening to my boy, Peter Schiff.
Yeah.
Who's obviously a big, huge precious metals dude. But he did a podcast yesterday and talked about some of this stuff. And he was saying that, and I do this, and I think you just did it, unless I was just misheard. But he's like, and these people, they're just buying at market. He's like, they don't understand limits, they don't understand whatever. And I'm like, I don't understand limits. I'm like, my brother does. He's like, did you fucking? I'm like, I don't know what you're fucking talking about, dude.
I gotta go in later.
But you just said market. Was that what it was?
At the
market. Okay.
I'm buying it at the market because I want to buy it right now.
So, and that's what. Right. Okay. Right. And that's, I think he didn't get into it deeply because I wanted to look at more of it. 2 minutes. But he was basically saying, there's a way to do that. If you're going to do this, like, you should have been like just waiting for certain price points and just get in at those price points as opposed to just buying it now. Like, yeah. I don't know, whatever. I mean,
so
obviously,
there's two ways to do it. One is you do it ahead of time, and I can place an order that says I want to place a buy.
Yeah, I do this on Bitcoin. I just won't do it. Like, I just won't do the. I do the dips. Like, sometimes when I think it's really volatile, I'm like, all right, if it gets down to 28,500, I want to buy. I'm all in or whatever I'm doing. But I don't know. I'm usually just looking at the chart all day, so like I don't.
So the average guy who's doing this, you're just buying because you want to buy, but you should be setting a price point. I'm watching it to see, all right, when it gets to 14, I'm going to go ahead, I'll call it. And I normally do it right on my computer. I'll just go in and buy. The only reason I couldn't do it on my computer today is because I just moved the cash over from the bank account this morning. And when I did that, it doesn't show up on my app or on my site, but I can call in and the money's there.
Okay, 12 o'clock.
Welcome to Sports, Clicks, and Politics with your hosts, Ben Hussong and me, Shawn Hannon.
Welcome to episode 35 of Sports, Clicks, and Politics. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Hussong, for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Quite a week we had here since our last show. I think we actually mentioned GameStop in passing as a joke, like as we were signing off and not knowing that this was going to be a focus of a show a week later.
This is going to be the whole thing. This is going to take
we have some other stuff to talk to because, I mean, there is the game, the Super Bowl's coming up, and we got some New York State nursing home news.
Oh, God.
And we got some, well, we didn't get the news, but we have some additional news in our still undecided congressional race here in the New York 22nd District. So a lot to cover. Hopefully you guys have been able to find us over here on YouTube since we have migrated over there from the Facebook because I can't keep myself out of trouble over there. So I want to make sure that I can come to you guys every week here. So YouTube it is for now.
Until YouTube kicks us off because of you.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a bridge we'll get to when we cross it, I guess, right? Or the other way around.
I think we're going to cross that bridge when we come to it.
We'll figure it out. So let's touch on the Super Bowl first.
Yep.
That's the only sports thing we have. It's kind of billed as the matchup of these quarterbacks. I think that's going to be the main narrative. Have you done any deep dive and thinking how you're going to pick a winner?
I was thinking a coin toss is probably my best bet. I think the Chiefs are going to be the ones to ultimately win. I think it's just a better team, top to bottom, and a better coach, which helps. But I don't know. You never want to bet against Tom Brady. I've learned that.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a really good matchup. I think that either team, there's a path for either team to win, if you will. I agree with you that the Chiefs are the better team, more talented team, and if they play their A game and the Bucs play their A game, it should be the Chiefs to win that game. But I don't think I don't think it's as big as we think, especially since I think the Bucs are kind of coming into form right now. So we haven't really seen the best Bucs team. Maybe we are seeing the best Bucs team right now. So I don't know. I think the Bucs have a shot.
I agree with that. The reason I really lean towards giving the nod to the Chiefs is the coaching. When I watch the Chiefs play the Bills, they just outcoached them in every aspect of the game, offensively, defensively, and game management overall. The Chiefs, it wasn't close. They just had the Bills' number top to bottom. And what stuck out to me about that was the Bills' coaching staff is excellent. They have not been outcoached all season. And then in this game, it wasn't even close. They got outcoached by a mile. So that sort of gave me a newfound respect for the Chiefs of, good Lord, this team's it's on another level. It really is.
Do you know what the line is? I don't want to put you on the spot there because I forgot to look it up this morning.
I don't. I want to say 2.5 or 3, but I'm not sure.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I just think it's going to be a better game. I think most people are on the Chiefs side. I think that's where I kind of read early money was going there. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I think the quarterback matchup is intriguing. Obviously, you got the passing of the guard narrative. But there's a bunch of good players on both sides of this team. So it should be just an entertaining game. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully my boy Gronk gets a touchdown and gets to go out. Maybe if this is his last game ever, he gets to go out and on top a little bit. So
agreed. KC minus 3.5. Minus 3.5.
Yeah, I think the Bucs might be the play there.
I would agree.
If it goes up to 4,
you're gonna put a little.
No, but I got all my money in Bitcoin and GME. So that's gambling, Ben. What are you doing over there?
I'm sorry.
Trying to gamble my money away.
I apologize. Let's invest it in the stock market instead.
Let's talk about a more. This is kind of an issue that we've talked about here multiple times on the show, multiple episodes of the show. And this is the idea that New York State, according to our governor, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 35th to 39th ranked in nursing home deaths in relation to all the other states, which turns out to not be true, Ben. Did you know that we undercounted our nursing home deaths here in New York State?
I think I did. I may have discussed that once or twice.
So this wasn't a surprise to you when this all came out a couple days ago with the New York Attorney General Letitia James here and her investigative reporting?
I think it did not surprise me that this is what it is. I actually think they are still undercounting with their estimates of how many they actually have.
I do think that. I don't know how or where the disconnect would be. I mean, obviously I think they have this what is it, the HERDS system that kind of reports the deaths there from if they leave the facility and go to a hospital and die. This is the report that they get, this HERDS. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I think the reporting of it is trying to paint it as something that, oh my God, this has just come to light, where like anybody who was paying attention to this even a little bit knew this number was going to come out at some point, and it was going to be much higher than I think what they have now, 8,500, 8,700 it was. Because I think the number now is like 12,743 is the number.
Listen, I'm an idiot with a laptop, and I figured this out 9 months ago that we were under. It was so painfully obvious by any metric that you measured it
that the number they were listing was incorrect. There was no plausible way that you could say it was accurate. And let me back up a step on this. The way they are undercounting them is actually quite simple. Everywhere else in the entire country, federal government, every other state, if a nursing home resident contracts COVID, goes to a hospital, and dies, it is counted as a nursing home death. Everywhere else. New York State does not count that. The only way it counts is if you get COVID in a nursing home and then die in the nursing home, which is obviously not very common, because if somebody's dying of a flu-like syndrome, like COVID, they're going to a hospital. That's what you do. So it was obvious from the beginning. And look, if you want to count that as a hospital death, or if you don't want to count that as a hospital death, fine. I could see the argument for both sides, but the reality is, if you're doing it different than everybody else, and then you're taking a victory lap, saying like, well, why don't you go ask those other 35 states what they did wrong? Like, listen, you know that's a lie. You know that the information is not the same. Yeah. This is just so painfully obvious. And the reason is very simple. His nursing home order killed people. Like, and he's trying to deny that that ever came to light. Like, no, this is nonsense. You absolutely signed an executive order on March 25th that said a person shall not be denied admission or readmission to a nursing home due solely to a positive COVID test or symptoms. Okay. And he came out later and was like, no, that was only if the hospitals were overwhelmed, and that never happened. Like, nope. Not how anybody read that. And if that was how you had meant it when you were asked about it weekly or during your weekly or daily press conferences, wouldn't you have brought that up once?
Yeah.
Between March and May?
And obviously we had Bill Hannon here from the Empire Center on, and he filed a Freedom of Information request for that. Never got it, technically. The state released the numbers, but they just released them public, just after the Attorney General had to do their own investigation. Right. After we had a local reporter here for Syracuse.com, Tim Nouse did a investigator. He basically they both came up with all the same numbers. 13,000 was the number that they were kind of roughly guessing. And the state comes out with conveniently lower than 13,000 number, but
close.
Again, yeah, close enough to be 13,000. And the fact that it took the Attorney General investigation just to get those numbers is just ridiculous, again, on all faces. And the biggest point is not necessarily to this was an effort to, hey, Cuomo mishandled whatever, but if you're trying to prepare for the pandemic and you're getting information that says, hey, there's a bunch of people dying that, aren't in nursing homes, and they, in fact, it turned out were dying in they were contracting this in nursing homes, there seemed to be additional problem out there that never existed because he basically blurred the number of these nursing home deaths. Again, as Ben pointed out, they're counting differently than all these other states, and then taking a victory lap, bragging about how he did when he knew full well that the numbers were incorrect. So I'm glad the number's out.
He's still denying it.
Listen, he's like I said, he was throwing blame around like a kid in a food fight. That's what he does. So
it's unbelievable. It's like, it's a political attack. No, it's not. It's basic numbers. Like, you should not.
The political attack from his same party attorney general.
Yeah, like, right? This is ridiculous. And listen, honest to God, this virus affects the oldest people the most. And the narrative behind all of these lockdowns and everything else was it could be anybody. And and some of us have been pointing out, like, hey, if you just protected the nursing homes, you'd probably get the death rate to drop by about 80%.
Right. And I don't know that there was ever this is the way to save the nursing homes plan. But at least if you had the focus, you would at least hope to think you were doing your best shot, right? Like, here, they didn't even get a best shot. And it turns out the investigative had much more problems just in the death count, just the lack of staffing and the PPE. There was a bunch of other things that came up in that investigative report from the Attorney General that were, I think, known for longer than that report's been out, for sure. Yeah. So we'll follow up on that as news breaks about that in upcoming shows. One more piece of New York news here. We still don't have an answer.
Wait. Yeah, I didn't even tell you this pre-show. I apologize, but I got something to add on the COVID front.
Okay.
I did learn something after our show last week. So, vaccine. If you had COVID and then you have antibodies and you have been donating your plasma to help other people, if you get the vaccine, they will no longer take your plasma.
Well,
because it destroys the body's far superior natural antibodies and replaces them with the mRNA ones. So if you are doing that, just be aware, if you already got it and you decide to get the vaccine for whatever reason, they're not going to let you do it anymore. It's almost like there's a reason that they don't want to take your plasma once you get the vaccine. I'm going to let you draw your own conclusions and connect your own dots, but it would seem to me that if you already have a better immunity than putting a foreign substance in your body that will not stop you from spreading the virus.
Bring on the vid. Give it to me.
Like, guys, think this through. If you already had it and you get the vaccine, you're literally doing nothing. I mean, literally, there's zero benefit for you to do it.
You're actually a detriment to society because you can't donate plasma.
Yeah, like it's hurting. And, okay, like, God bless you. Everybody make your own decisions, and please go in with two eyes open. Let's not pretend like we know for sure this vaccine is going to give you everlasting immunity. All the available evidence indicates it does not. Whereas all of the available evidence indicates that if you get COVID, you have very long-lasting immunity. Like people that had SARS-CoV-1 still have immunity via T-cell immunity 15 years later, 12 years later, something like that. Yeah. Like, make common sense decisions. If you already had it, don't go get it.
It's almost like the human body was prepared for this already.
You know, every now and then.
So let's move over to the bit of New York State news. It's still not, I guess, official news here, but we do have some, we have an update, if you will. So New York 22, the congressional district, still the lone remaining undecided congressional race in the country. So we're still unrepresented. Isn't that fun? I mean, you're probably right. But we do have an update on votes. So we have Claudia Tenney, who is the challenger, even though she's the former representative, and Anthony Brindisi, who is the current representative, is now trailing, and Tenney has a lead of 122 votes. I believe they have one more county to canvass. I think it's in Oswego today, and I'm sure there's more court proceedings and arguments and stuff, but we've been doing this. The judge dismissed a bunch of, or at least ruled on a bunch of pending outcomes there, and right now we stand with Tenney at a 122 vote lead. I think we're going to get some more information later this afternoon. I was hoping we were going to have something before we went on today, but they're still doing some canvassing up in one of the last counties anyway. So
amazing.
Yeah, just what are we 3 months later?
Yeah,
shocking. Can't believe our government doesn't work so more efficiently.
Oh yeah, it's a real brain teaser.
Let me jump in too real quickly too, so that I don't want to leave out my boy Jeff Epstein here. So if you got
your boy,
my
Jeff
boy
Epstein,
so
it's a bold statement.
Yeah, he knows. So Leon Black, the CEO of Apollo, which is like a gigantic hedge fund, right? Is that what they do?
Yeah, I believe.
He's no longer the CEO of a gigantic hedge fund. He has stepped down in large part because of $158 billion. Billion dollar.
I thought it was 158 million.
Million. Billions and millions. With Epstein, doesn't really matter. Million. Either way, a large sum of money to Jeffrey Epstein, which I think was early reported something like 50 million, and now it's 150 million. So he has stepped down for whatever is going to come of his relationship with Jeff Epstein. But I wanted to make sure that we had a little bit of update on that, because that was kind of happened right as our show broke last week too. So.
That was only a week ago that happened.
It seems like it's like a month.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
So the reason everybody's here, the topic of the show, I guess we'll start with WallStreetBets. So they're a subreddit of Reddit, and they do bets. They do Wall Street stock tips, right? So they post these, it's like a blog forum, whatever, and they have a bunch of different users. The users, just for the record, when I first entered WallStreetBets, which was, I don't know, whenever Elon tweeted it out, I was in the 1.8 million users. They're now almost at 8 million users, which is crazy. I think I saw 7.9 or 7.7 or something like that. So they're just, it's an unbelievable phenomenon that's happening here, and we're going to try to break down some of it as best we can here where we're at.
I have to give a disclaimer before we talk about this.
Okay.
I am a licensed financial advisor. I'm going to talk about this very freely and openly. Please don't take anything I'm going to say during this show as financial advice. For all the regulators that watch this show afterwards that I have to send them, and they view this because to make sure I'm not doing anything. I am not giving financial advice. I am not speaking as a financial advisor today. I am just talking as an idiot with a computer of everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon, right? So this is not necessarily how to play this thing. No. It's a what the hell has happened here in a week
what happened
thing.
And where we're going.
Yeah, so I think WallStreetBets is probably the best place to start, right? So I mean, this is kind of so.
Actually,
I do want
back it up. Let me give people understand what happened and how we got there, because I can explain this
go ahead.
in pretty basic terms.
Yeah.
So in investing, obviously the idea is you put money into something in the hopes that it increases in value and you make money. That's the usual flow. There's also something called short selling. Now, if I think a company is going to lose value or I think it is overpriced, I would sell it short. And what that means is I sell shares that I don't own, thinking that it's going to go down and I'm going to go buy the shares later. So I borrow the shares in quotes, and then so if it's trading at 10, I sell it short. It goes down to 3, and then I go out on the market and buy it for $3, and then I deliver the shares. I have to deliver the shares. That's not an option to not, but I go out and I've made $7 per share in that scenario. Now, if I short sell it at 10 and it goes up to 15 and my contract comes due, I still need to deliver the shares. So I have to go buy it at 15, and I have lost $5 per share at that point. So that's short selling in a nutshell. Now, what happened was some people have a huge moral objection to it. I really don't. If you're just betting on a company going up or down, good for you. I don't care. But,
yeah, and just real quick, I don't think shorting. I think it probably provides a check on people trying to distort their stocks higher too, right? So if there's a company out there who knows they're struggling and they try to put out some news and they try to basically prop up their stock price. I think if there's enough short sellers out there, they can call BS on that and kind of keep that in check. So again, I'm not morally opposed to short selling either, as long as the rules remain consistent for everybody and it's all transparent and whatnot. So I don't think there's any moral objection whatsoever. But continue. Sorry.
I know that's perfect. So what happened here is there's a hedge fund called Melvin Capital Management, and a hedge fund basically is the wealthiest people. These are where they put their money. So these guys usually charge like 2.2%.
Did I see Michael Jordan was a...
Michael Jordan might be affected by this, yes.
I think I saw $300 million.
Yeah, they might not make payroll. But anyways, so a hedge fund, you pay a lot of money, and the idea is they're the best of the best, and they're going to make you a ton of money. There's a big argument about whether a hedge fund is actually worth it or not, about the value and everything else, but this is what wealthy people do. So this hedge fund looked at GameStop, and they short sold GameStop. Figure, all right, this company is basically useless at this point. It doesn't do anything. Nobody's going in. They can download the games right online. You're not going to go in. If you trade in 5 games that you paid $80 each for, they'll give you $9 in store credit. Like it's a bad business model. I actually called a buddy of mine who's a video game guy. I said, hey, listen, you play a lot of video games, right? He said, yep. So when's the last time you went to a GameStop? He said about maybe a decade ago. Okay. So it wasn't a terrible call that this company's probably going to go out of business. So they started short selling it. They started selling the shares that they didn't own. Okay. Now what happened is GameStop got infused with new money, got a new CEO. They decided they're going to change up their whole model, go more online, less brick and mortar. They're going to adapt, which companies are, prone to do. So the short sellers didn't really buy in, but there were some people on this subreddit group, WallStreetBets, that saw this angle, or I don't exactly know how, because this is a phenomenon that had happened.
Yeah, and just real quick, we've been talking about this for a week, but this has been in play for weeks and months. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been going for months. So what they did is they all started buying. So you'll hear this term a lot. It's called a short squeeze. So what they're doing is, if I know you're short a stock, I go and buy it. That drives up the price. All right, and if I can get enough shares, if I can buy enough shares more than what you have short sold, then I'm going to squeeze you, because you have to buy the shares. You have to, at some point, spend the money, buy the shares, and deliver the shares that you sold short. So as that happens, I just keep buying and buying and buying and buying and buying. And let's say there's 100 shares, you're short 20. If I own over 80 shares, I dictate the price to you, because it doesn't matter. You need to buy it for whatever number it is until it. And now there's a bunch of different people, so eventually somebody is going to sell, and then that starts it, and it'll work its way back down quickly. But that's a short squeeze. The biggest mistake Melvin Capital made, and I think what is actually somewhat morally reprehensible on their part, is not just them, but all these hedge funds, they all kind of go at it together. The short sellers overall shorted 140% of the existing shares of GameStop. So of all the shares that exist of GameStop, they sold, without owning, 140% of them.
So they can't get them all back.
there's no shot. And listen, here's the worst. And this is where, I have no objection to short selling. This doesn't sit right with me because this isn't you betting on what a company's going to do or trying to be a check and a balance. You only go short 140% if you are planning on putting that company out of business. You are never planning on delivering shares. You are trying to get them to file bankruptcy and put them under. So these Wall Street Bets Reddit idiots, I say that lovingly.
They have worse names than they call themselves.
I know. Listen.
Idiots is a term of endearment, I feel like, around
honest to God, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Like, I'm reading this last week in actual legitimate financial publications, and they're quoting Reddit usernames. Like, Thick Dad Bod 46 says this. Like, what world is this? Yeah. So they're buying. So they started buying all the shares of GameStop that they could, and they started when it was like $3 a share, and they bought and they bought and they bought and they bought and they keep buying, and they're not selling, and they're squeezing because when these contracts, the short contracts, come due, these hedge funds have to deliver. They have to go buy. So it doesn't matter if this price hits $5,000 a share, Melvin Capital is paying $5,000 per share to get these contracts. They have to. There is no choice. This is a short squeeze. Melvin Capital overexerted, over-leveraged themselves to the point of being so vulnerable that a bunch of idiots on Reddit are literally, if there was no intervention, if the SEC didn't step in, if other funds didn't step in, if there was no manipulation or anything else, what you would see as a result of this is a roughly 15 to $20 billion wealth transfer from the hedge funds to retail investors.
Yeah, they literally won the trade.
They won.
And
it's over. They won.
Now,
in a perfect system,
it would have won to 5,000 if they didn't have intervention on Thursday. I mean, I think there would have been other circuit breakers that have tripped, which would have been just basically companies going out of business. So maybe it doesn't get to whatever, and maybe some of that stuff still happens, but they hit a home run. And as we mentioned this a little bit, just in passing, but like this is not going away, right? This is here forever.
That's the thing.
They must feel emboldened too because they actually got to see it work, right? So not only did they have this plan and they got this momentum and they probably felt really good about this stuff, even when it was probably like $5, $10, $11, they probably didn't realize what they were actually, or what could have actually happened.
Right.
And the fact that it got to this point, I think is more a reflection on our financial system more than the savviness of the idiots on Reddit. But that's another story, and that's another topic, I guess. So let's finish up about the technicals part, and then
okay.
Go ahead.
So now what's got to happen is that's more or less everything that's going on. Now, there's other companies involved. AMC, 85% of shares were sold short. So, that's crazy. You would never do that because you're so leveraged. It leaves you so vulnerable to a short squeeze because you can't possibly control and buy up 80% of an existing company at whatever price you dictate. Same way at 140, obviously it's impossible. You cannot buy the shares. So what you're seeing now is insanity that this was even allowed to happen in the first place. For reference, I looked at the top. You can go to highshortinterest.com and it lists all the short interest. Every 2 weeks it updates for different companies in America. GameStop was number 1 at 138. AMC was number 3 at 85, 86. Virgin Galactic was actually number 2 at 90% shares sold short. Just for a comparison, I went to the European side and England. What are the most shorted companies in England? It's 3 oil companies and 2 banks, and the highest short interest is 14.5%. That's responsible investing. What we are doing is something else over here. These hedge funds are a casino. Now, here's the problems with it. Number one, these hedge fund guys are not dumb. They are very, very smart people, and there's no way they didn't acknowledge the reality that they could be susceptible to a short squeeze. What it says is they had no fear that any of their so-called competitors were going to do it to them.
Yeah, because all this is public information. Like I said, the Redditors had this information available to them. They knew what they were looking at. They executed, but none of the other rival hedge funds seem not to make that play.
No, a bunch of them copied it, in fact. And this is keep in mind, the people that are investing in a hedge fund are like Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets. These are people that have serious, serious money.
Yeah.
And this hedge fund, so I just want to make this abundantly clear what this actually means. If this goes all the way to the full execution, these people have put billions of dollars with these hedge fund managers. It will be gone. there will be no money left in this hedge fund. The guy who made these trades at Melvin Capital will have effectively lost his clients $13 billion for other people. It's not his money. $13 billion is going to leave the hands of these wealthy people, and it's going to go end up in these Redditors' hands. Like, it's amazing. And this is, I think, the most remarkable part is they don't care.
Yeah.
Now, the rich people care.
And so this is, let's talk about just, I don't know, my timeline of getting involved in this, I guess, in general. So, Robinhood, we'll talk about them in a little bit. But so I have a Robinhood account. I almost never use it. You guys are probably aware that they have a referral program where if you recommend the app to another individual and they sign up, you get a free app, and so do they, right? So turns out back in February of 2020, I got a free share of GME, right? So I was aware of it. I looked at it. I was, whatever, knew it was there. It basically sat in my Robinhood account untouched for, I don't know, until last Monday, actually. So I don't even know what caused it, but I woke up late. I started reading an article about how many of the GameStop owners had sold off a bunch of stock to make money. And I was like, how'd they make money? Their stock's $3, right? So I just quickly go to my Robinhood app, look it up, and it says $62. Now, this is like at 3 or 4 in the morning, Monday morning before the show last week, right? So, like, I don't know what the hell was going on at this point. But in the next hour, I proceeded to watch it run up to about $120 in my hand, not knowing what was happening. I was like, what is going, like, so I just for quick reference, I had some shares of Tilray back when this thing was a crazy thing too. I don't know how I end up with all these places, but so I had some Tilray and the same thing was happening, right? So this thing was just shooting up and I was like, this is weird. Like, I only have one share. So it's like, I'm not like worrying about like running to the doors or exits or whatever. I'm just trying to figure out. So then I start just doing a couple simple searches. This is 4 in the morning, so there's nobody to talk to about this. I start doing some simple searches, and all of a sudden I see that there's this Reddit thing, and there's this play, and the people are trying to squeeze, and I was like, oh my God, this is spectacular. And so we didn't really touch about it on Monday at the show. I think we mentioned like in passing at one point, but ever since then, I've been tracking this GME and all the cogs that go off of it. It's an amazing thing. And, we're a week into it now, or, we are a week into it now. Maybe the real world isn't, maybe only like 5 days into it now. Cause I think the really thing hit the fan on Thursday where that app that I had, the thing basically stopped allowing users to buy shares of GameStop, AMC, BlackBerry, Nokia. There was a bunch, I think like 13 stocks. I think they banned on Thursday.
Yeah. All of those were highly leveraged short positions.
Right. These were all the stocks that basically the Reddit idiots they're going after.
Where they had 50% or more of the shares that existed were sold short. And
so on Thursday, they blocked, without warning, like basically at opening, they just said, no, you can't buy these. Like there was I got a message on my app basically saying, hey, you could buy, I think it was, on Thursday it was none, but I think it opened up, I think like at 3 o'clock, it eventually opened up on Thursday, and then you could buy like 5 shares.
I don't even think it was that. I think it was later. I think it was closer to 3:30 that you could.
And so
the very end of the day.
But the whole while you could not buy, you could sell. And so the price bottomed out, right? So like if your only transaction allowed on the biggest retail app in the world is to sell, people are going to sell. And not those were mostly retails, but it allowed because there was no buying pressure, it allowed the price to fall, and it allowed all these Melvin Capital and a bunch of these other hedge funds who were over leveraged a way out. Like it was a way for them to, I'm sure, and maybe there'll be a Netflix documentary about this at some point, I'm sure, about all of the crap that went down on Thursday in the back behind the scenes with the stopping of the trades and the bailing out of Robinhood. That, and basically to your point where we were talking about no moral compass in shorting, here's where the rules changed, right? So if you're going to allow shorting and you're going to allow to get played on the other side, you can't change the rules in the middle of the trade and think that nobody's going to notice and nobody's going to care. And basically the world lost its shit.
Yeah, so what happened at Robinhood was actually far more nefarious than I think most people even recognize of, all right, I'm not going to accuse anybody of anything, but let's just look at what actually happened for Robinhood. And now this is all I have good reason to believe this is true. I'm open to the prospect that some of this will later be disproven. So Robinhood cancels trading. You cannot buy. I'm just going to focus on specifically GameStop and AMC because those are the two biggest ones. You can't buy them. None. No, not allowed for a full day. Unless, now, I got to back up another step. I'm sorry. Typically speaking, retail investors are individuals, you, me, people that just live out in the world, and this is what we do. Like it's an individual. You have a stock account. You're not a hedge fund. You're not a Wall Street guy. Like that's who a retail investor is. Robinhood is the largest provider for retail traders to own stock in. The idea was to democratize trading. That was their stated mission, and they have this app that you can go on and do it. It makes it very easy. So they also have something called like a concierge service where if you have enough money, and I don't know what the dollar amount is, but it's kind of a lot, you get a dedicated rep that you can call and discuss ideas with and investments and everything else. So during the day when they blocked all the people from buying, apparently the people that had enough money to qualify for the concierge service were still allowed to buy it. They could call their guy and it could still be bought, which is...
Yeah, because it was still open on the exchanges. It was just closed at the Robinhood.
Right. And then a handful of other places shut it down too.
And there was, I don't know, maybe you know what Apex, like there was some kind of like middleman, I feel like they're.
Yeah, who executes the actual trades.
So like they are the ones who I feel like a bunch of these apps are kind of tied into, and when they shut down, that's when everybody else shut down too.
Yeah, so Citadel is the group that has a large holding within Melvin Capital, the hedge fund.
They basically own it now.
Yeah, they do. And they also pay Robinhood $40 million every month or year or something like that for the data of their users. So basically what Robinhood really is it's a data analytics company for the hedge funds. Like it takes all the trades and sees so they could sell the patterns over to the institutional guys.
Yeah, this is a time to remember that if you're getting anything for free, that you're not the customer anymore, you're the product.
You're the product. Right. So they did that. All right, fine, whatever. They are who they are. Now, the problem I really had with this is, all right, so you stopped the trading and people couldn't buy. That's really messed up because, and what actually happened was there were some very, very like poisonous contracts that were set to expire that day, and it blocked the retail investors from really putting the screws to the hedge funds for the day. By that one day, I read somewhere, I don't know how accurate this number is, but it came from a pretty reliable source, somewhere between $4 and $6 billion the hedge funds saved that day by them blocking trading. So the hedge fund's best interest here is for the price to come down so that they can buy up the shares they need to settle their short contracts. So the only way that happens is if you aren't a short seller or bought short, but you bought actual stock, they need you to sell it. Otherwise, the price is going to keep going up as they get more desperate, and you're just going to be able to write. This happened with the Volvo or Volkswagen back about 10 or 12 years ago. Same exact thing. A short squeeze happened. So the next day, this is where this got me. Like, this struck me as very alarming of like, all right, so Robinhood had to go out and they got $1 billion of investment that night, Thursday night, from current investors. Sure, there's a legitimate reason, and I'm sure that it wasn't because they saved the Wall Street hedge funds $6 billion by shutting off trading, and then they got $1 billion the next day. That's not suspicious.
Well, if you listen to Vlad, the CEO, he just says it's a show of confidence.
Yeah, that's what I would say too if I was a piece of human. Never mind. So that happens. Friday comes up. Now, listen, if you follow these people on Reddit, they were pissed. Oh my God. And
deservingly so, man. Deservingly so.
Listen, even at that point, I was sort of an objective just on the outside looking in. At that point, I went, this is wrong. That is wrong. That should not happen. You're playing by two sets of rules. And the answer isn't we need more regulation. The answer is you need to enforce the regulation that's already there and maybe make less. Because there's so much regulation, it's impossible for retail investors to do this. It's impossible for them to compete with the wealthy because there's so many rules, so many laws, so many potholes to step in that it makes it almost impossible. But now the one time out of 10, the retail guy is beating up the hedge funds. They're changing the rules in the middle of the game, and they're doing it very underhanded. So here's the other part of this. Friday comes around. I mean, listen, it closed Thursday at about $199, almost $200 a share.
And it had reached upwards of like 500, 482 at some point.
It opened Friday at $400 a share. Overnight trading doubled the price because these people were so mad. And look, their big thing now is, I will not sell. I don't care. If you go on the Reddit subgroup, everything is diamond hands, hold the line, no selling, we're not folding. Hold. Just hold and go buy more. There's guys putting posts up there like, I just YOLO'd $400,000 on GME to the moon. And me as like a moderately responsible adult / financial advisor, I'm looking at this going, what are you doing? This is insane. You can't afford to lose that much money. What are you doing? This is crazy.
I mean, they never really had the money to begin with.
I know.
I mean, they had some, obviously.
Right. But their big thing at this point is, I don't care if I don't make a dime. I will lose all of this money. It means nothing to me. I had no money last week. Now I have $10 million. I've never lived like this. I don't care. I will be poor again tomorrow, and it doesn't matter. I'm in this to burn them to the ground. I want to take the hedge fund out. That's what these guys are saying. So Friday opens, jumps immediately to 400. This is another thing I found very, very troubling. So Robinhood, again, puts a limit on trading, but they didn't even announce it. They just made it so that right in the mid-morning, you could only buy 2 shares. Now, in the background, all these hedge funds are trying to get shares. They're trying to make it look like they're getting shares, if nothing else. Because if I hold GameStop and I think the shorts are covering their positions, my holding is not going to be worth as much. So I should sell it then and just get what I can before they close them. Because once they got all they need to close out the accounts, it's over. The play is done, and the price is going to plummet back to what it probably should be. So what they started doing is, if you look at trading activity, there was a lot on GameStop. A lot of buying and selling, a lot of buying and selling, a lot of buying and selling. And then Melvin Capital came out and said, like, yeah, no, we got it. So retail investors are blocked from buying more than, at first 2, and then it got reduced to 1. So there's no buying, and that'll cause the price to go down. Meanwhile, the institutional investors are still trading, and they have all this activity. And then CNBC came out at later in the day, like 1 or 2 o'clock, and put out a sponsored tweet, so one that they paid to have it actually go and reach more people, that said Melvin Capital has covered all of its short positions. So all of those things together should have caused a massive sell-off, because at that point, if all of that is true, your position's not worth anything anymore. It's definitely not still worth $200 a share. It's not. It's probably going to go back down to like $5 a share, and you're going to lose all your money.
And they're still short. Like, we know the number's still like 112% or something.
Because these idiots on Reddit are not idiots. They're actually, like, a handful of them are brilliant at this. And they went in and they looked at all of this is available. This is what the institutional guys use to make these calls. They went in and looked at the charts and said, listen, it's all a smokescreen. This number of shares sold short is still at about 120%.
Yeah, they shorted more.
Right. So what that means that they did is these guys literally went and sold more sales short to themselves, amongst each other, to go and buy it and give the appearance as if they were settling up all of their positions. Also, there's alleged that JP Morgan Chase was out there shorting GameStop on that day because they're convinced that the Reddit guys were going to fold. And they shorted it too. So they're selling shares sold. They are selling shares short. I got it that time. Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you that there was coordination. Obviously, I cannot prove that. I'm saying I find it deeply troubling that at the exact timeline of GameStop, or not, Robinhood stops you from buying it on the retail side, but allows institutions to keep doing it. Melvin puts out a thing saying that they are buying up positions left and right, and they're generating all of this activity on these charts. And CNBC pays to have a tweet go out so it reaches more people to say they've covered it, it's over. All in succession. That's troubling. Like, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying I find that to be a heck of a coincidence, and I find that to be troubling.
Yeah, I feel like did I send you that tweet that was promoted?
You
I
sent
was
me
like,
the
what
tweet.
the hell? I was like, promoted tweet? I'm like, wait, this isn't even real. Like, I don't even think this was actually real. And then I was like, oh my God, it's a promoted tweet. But real quickly on this, so I talked to this just before we went on, but so CNBC, not to pick whether or not they're complicit in any kind of coordination and whatever, but if you're spending all day talking about technicals and fundamentals and then a bunch of Reddit idiots come to steamroll the whole thing, do you have a show anymore? Like, what's fast money going to talk about? Just Reddit idiots?
No, I mean, you have to start considering the Reddit idiots. Like, that's a thing that you're going to have to start dealing with as an investor moving forward because they can move a market. Look, Melvin Capital is a $13 billion hedge fund. Obviously, they can influence the stock market. These guys, WallStreetBets, let's just say with core members, all right, so really 2 million. You have 2 million people, even if they have $10,000 apiece. If they move, if they move together, it's like the single most influential hedge fund in the world. Like,
and I'm not going to dismiss the fact that I'm sure there are some pros in there too.
Of
right?
course.
So like they have this, but it doesn't mean they're not wrong. They're probably just feeding information, and that probably makes them more educated, more informed, and better traders.
There's guys that have skill. They know what they are
right.
doing.
And listen,
they didn't luck into this.
And we didn't talk about this, but there were some major players who jumped in on that trade on Wednesday. I think with Elon tweeted out something, GameStomps, right? GameStonks. And legitimately thing that went from like 130 to 200, like in a second. That dude has like, he's Midas.
Everything he touches.
And so, and he had this, I'm not going to try to pretend to pronounce his last name, but some Shamanth, yeah. So, and he was public about it. He's like, I'm in. He's like, he bought like $100,000 worth. I think he ended up cashing out like $700,000 and gave it all to Barstool Sports to give away to the restaurant.
Dave Portnoy's on this big time.
Yeah, he basically made his personal mission to end Robinhood. He basically said so on Twitter.
He said he's not going to stop until Vlad is in prison.
Yeah.
Like, he's not stopping until somebody, because this is robbery. Like, this is such blatant market manipulation, and it's in such plain sight that they're not even bothering to hide it. That is what I find so troubling, is they're trying to make up excuses after the fact. They are manipulating the stock market at this point.
Their excuses, we want to save you guys from trouble, but the only people who were in trouble were the hedge funds.
Right.
And they were teetering on the edge of existence, and
they still are.
They got a life rat. They still are.
If you look at the numbers, I'm telling you, this is my conclusion. I can't tell you this is definitively true, but as I'm looking at all of the data that I can, and I'm looking at what these idiots have on Reddit, and I'm looking at the hedge funds and the behavior of the people at CNBC and hedge funds in Wall Street, I think they are not close to out of it. I think the Reddit guys held way more than anybody would have anticipated. And keep in mind, for them to truly get rid of all of their short positions, they need to buy pretty much all of the stock.
And this is something that I'm definitely not sophisticated enough to understand, but I saw that other than when I mentioned that the owners kind of unloaded a bunch of shares, so that kind of like stirred the waters. Like, nobody was expecting that, I don't think.
Yeah.
But where was I going to go? After the I don't know what I was going to say now. Sorry, but
that's
I was going to say
something on the technical side you didn't really understand about how they.
So I don't remember. It was something about how they were going to. I mean, most of these companies still have long positions on some of these things too.
Yeah,
and so I feel like they probably did that even when it dipped to like 192, and they could hedge themselves a little bit. But who knows what the hell was going on that Thursday? And that's what I want the movie to be about. When there's this documentary, I want to know what happened on Thursday.
I can't see any legitimate explanation for what happened on Thursday. I don't think there is a combination of words in the English language that could make me look at that situation and go, oh, okay, no, I understand. No, that all just lined up and it happened to be that way. This looks bad. I mean, this is... If you're driving down, you're manipulating the market so that the price goes down and the retail guys cannot buy it as the price is going down, but only the institutional guys can. I'm sorry, but you've chosen a side, and what you have now done is illegal. You stole money from these people. I'm not telling you that what they're doing is right, wrong, or indifferent. What I'm telling you is that if another hedge fund did it to them, there would be no complaints whatsoever. It would not be illegal. It would not be against any rules. It would be perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with it. And the last thing that really got me was when I think it was Charles Gasparino broke the story that said the SEC is going to investigate the situation and they're going to start looking at the Reddit thread for misinformation. Like, the SEC is going to investigate the Reddit guys? Not Robinhood? Not Citadel? Not the hedge funds that are like clearly manipulating the stock market. You're going to go look for misinformation on a site where these guys call themselves idiots. I mean,
and like I said, and that's I would say that's the
nicest
minority.
way they describe themselves.
Most people don't agree with Mr. Gasparini's or Mr. Gasparino's position there. They think Robinhood did, act not greatly. And
I don't think he was saying it, but he was saying he had a source that said the SEC was investigating. Now the SEC came out and said we're going to look at this too.
But I was interested that the other side of the argument rallied the crazy confluence of people, right? You had AOC come out on the side of the retailers.
With
You had
Donald
Ted
Trump
Cruz,
Jr.
Donald Trump Jr. You had freaking Jon Stewart, had never been on Twitter in his whole life. I don't remember that dude.
Yeah, I love.
So me too. His first tweet was like, "This is bullshit."
Right.
He joined Twitter just to make a tweet about this, and it has stirred this is a thing that has been brewing, and I'm gonna put a bunch of things in here I think that are all part of the same thing, and that's going to be the Bernie Sanders stuff. It's going to be the Donald Trump stuff. It's going to be this stuff. It's going to be some of the stuff that happened on January 6th. There is a revolt or something going on amongst the people, and they're pushing back wherever they can find a weak spot on the establishment and the elites, and that's not going to end, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger because now they can mobilize, and when they find those weak spots, they're just going to attack. And again,
it's decentralized.
You
can't just go and take one out.
Right. And like I said, I think some of this goes back, maybe I'm just being a homer here, but I think it goes all the way back to the Ron Paul revolution of 2007, 2008, 2012. It was the same sentiment. It was like, the people at the top are screwing over the people at the bottom. How can we stop it? And here we are, a decade later or whatnot, and the sentiment is bigger. And now people are more nimble on the internet. There's
so much information.
Yeah, and it's just
you have
endless.
access to it now. That's, I think, the biggest change is now you can go in and see what these other people have seen and said forever, like, well, this is why you need me. Like, I can read a chart.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like CNBC is like not a thing. I mean, there's going to be just a shakeup of, I don't think we're going to know what the financial institution will look like in 5 years. Like, it's just going to be totally different.
Listen, I don't know how this all shakes out. I really don't. Here's what I found to be so incredible about this. So all the CNBC guys, Jim Cramer and everybody else, what's the guy's name? Payne on Fox Business. Charles Payne. Thank you. Charles Payne, to his credit, was one of the only ones that came out and said, no, listen, they got him. They win. You shouldn't do a thing about it. Let them take their medicine. Because I'll get to that point in a minute. But all these other guys are coming out being like, hey, guys, you did great. Now sell it off and take your home run. If I went on, and I'm telling you right now, I joined Reddit just for this. I didn't know what Reddit was.
I joined off of the Elon tweet.
I joined just for this. Because
he joined GameStop, and I just hit the thing, and I was like, oh, WallStreetBets. And I honestly, I only used Reddit for Epstein stuff. Then I was like, oh.
I didn't even know what Reddit was. I'm not kidding. I have heard of it. I didn't know what it was.
Right.
So I've joined it just to read this. And you've got guys on there that are putting things out, and it, obviously you vote up if the more you agree with it, and it gets pushed to the top. They're on there like, I've got $15 million invested in this. I will lose every dime of it before I let this go down. It's their goal now they want to make money, pure and simple. But that's like the second most important part. Priority number one is carnage. They are out for it, and they don't care if they lose every dime that they have made. And the one that kind of stuck out in my mind was a guy said, I've been poor my entire life. I've had this money for 1 week. You'd think I'd give a shit about going back to being poor. Like, it means nothing to them. They don't care. And this is what's so unusual about it is everybody all like, well, you should be really careful that you might lose all the money. And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, we get it.
I don't know what to say. Like, what do you mean you're okay with that? And it's because they've had enough. Because they felt like they were playing a rigged game, and they finally found an opportunity to stick it to the guys that rigged the game. And in response, they discovered the game was more rigged than they realized.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe my biggest silver lining of this whole thing is that all those people realize, if they didn't already realize, now they know. And it's not even just people who are participating. Anybody like us, we're just watching on the outside for a lot of it. Like, it's exposing things that I don't think people realized were in existence. I mean, I think the whole thing is crap. So like, none of this is really a surprise to me, other than I'm just fascinated by it. So,
oh my God, it's amazing.
It's unbelievable. Like I said, I mean, it's hard to say this is the story of the year when we had a overthrow of the government 3 weeks ago. But what the hell? Like, what the hell? This thing is literally the craziest story. So let's take it to finish this off here, right? So where are we going? So we talked about AMC as one of the other kind of like the sister stock to GME. Nokia was another one in there. BlackBerry is another one in there. There was a couple other ones.
Blockbuster Video went up 400%. I didn't even know you could still buy stock in Blockbuster
I know.
Video.
I said, I feel like I was just a joke to me. I literally just was like, I wonder if Blockbuster still has stock. I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's a penny stock. You can't buy it. Then I was like, oh, it's like up 250%. The next day it was up like 700%. I was like, oh my God. So clearly there are other targets. And we talked about the list of companies that have been shorted. The one that got a lot of traction over the weekend and specifically today at open was silver, right? So this was the SLV, the AG. Those are the two tickers that kind of got the most attention here. And then people buying physical silver. So actually people, calling up, buying bullion and coin and taking possession of that in their home. So again, this was something that we had just kind of touched base on a little bit about. I'm like, man, if they could ever figure out a way to short silver, that's the biggest, short that I think that exists. It's much different than trying to short paper stock equity as opposed to actually buying and storing and taking out of circulation physical silver, which I think that's what would have to happen for the squeeze to actually really, really manifest into a squeeze. But there was a lot of movement over the weekend. I mean, all the silver stuff's up.
Normally silver doesn't increase by 10% overnight. That's abnormal. It doesn't move like 10% in a year for the most part. But it did.
And I see, like I said, I think when we talked about it, it was like something silver spot was, or maybe that was the SLV was like done at like $23 or something.
SLV is one of the funds that holds physical silver allegedly. It's an iShares fund. It was at about $23.50 as of today. It's at about $27.
Yeah, and so I don't know what to and where these people are. I literally have been inundated with people asking me questions about this all week, which has been great. Like, I love the interaction. Yeah. So people, please keep coming. Like, I'll engage as best I can with the limited sophistication that I have. I'd like to start off all those conversations with, for the record, I'm an unemployed bartender, and then we go on from there. So
don't take financial.
But so, back to speaking a little bit about the Ron Paul revolution a little bit. So that's when I got involved in money and monetary policy and all the Fed and all this stuff. And so I started just buying and storing silver and gold myself back then, right? So I would just buy whatever I could, a couple coins here, some junk silver from there, whatever. And I just put it in a shoebox. And here we are, 10, 12 years later here. And all of a sudden, the one thing that I thought I never would see or had basically been, I guess, banking on, if you will, is this squeeze that silver was eventually going to find its traditional and real price. And maybe we'll eventually find that. But I mean, I feel like the silver market has been distorted for decades by some of the biggest players in the game. Yeah. If there is a silver squeeze, and not saying it's pulled off by necessarily WallStreetBets or anything affiliated with them, but that is moving for sure. So something happened in that market. There was a bunch of the like the America's Precious Metal Exchange where I buy my gold and silver. They were no longer accepting buy orders because they were waiting for the spot price to open up in Asia. So basically there was a big run up on price that basically caused a liquidation of silver. Again, I don't know if this is the mother of all shorts or if this is just a flash in the pan today. But the game is on, right? So the game is being played everywhere, and maybe it's bigger than WallStreetBets now, and they just basically expose the idea. And people like me who had long known that silver was in this position of being shorted were like, oh, well, we can just do that. The same thing what they did with the stock. It'll take more and a different approach, but the idea is out there now, and I think the idea is not going away. The idea is going to be there, and again, wherever they can find and expose, that exposure is going to be spread like wildfire through the internet, the idiots on Reddit and everybody else. I hope that maybe this is actually the people providing the check on the financial system that the government otherwise couldn't. And they seemingly have been more successful. They've been more successful than Occupy Wall Street or Bernie Sanders or Ron Paul or any of these other people, right? This is really kind of drawn. It was the people uprising, and it was the people's idea, and that's not going away.
Listen, you could put the Trump thing in with that too. Like, Donald Trump became president as I mean, as funny as it is to say an anti-elitist, anti-establishment, but that's who he was. That was
he was
what
an
he ran
outsider.
as. Right. He was the outsider saying, like, the game is rigged. I know because I was one of the ones benefiting from the rigging. So I think you're right. Now, the silver one is way more complicated. I don't know that you can actually execute a short squeeze on silver. I don't. But listen, this is the common misconception that people have on this. JP Morgan Chase is the biggest player in this by far, and they do have a ton of silver. They have so much silver. It's incredible. But what they also have are leverage contracts on silver where they have to execute at certain price points down the road. So they got caught what's called spoofing contracts for silver and manipulating the price. So it's been artificially held down so that it makes it cheaper for them to buy as they continue to buy and buy and buy and buy and buy and buy. Now, at some point, they're going to let the price come up. Either it's going to be because outsiders come in and do some type of a short squeeze. I don't want to call it that because it would be different, but something along those lines, or because it just benefits them if it's worth more money. Their exposure is not in the silver that they own. Their exposure is in the contracts that they have written for guarantee to sell silver at a certain price down the road that then they negate as it gets closer to it. That's what spoofing is. You write the contract so it appears that there's this demand, and then you cancel it, and then you write a contract on the other side that you then cancel again, and you can keep the price low. They got fined about $1 billion for doing this. And this is
that probably put them out.
And this is how much of a joke this is. Like, if they are actually doing this and they're doing it half as successfully as what it appears they are doing it, they're going to make $1 trillion off of this. And you find them not even $1 billion. It's not even like, it's like me writing the software that steals money from banks at a fraction of a cent, and then them catching me and saying, you are now fined $50. Don't do it again, or else we'll fine you another $50. And I'm going, that's it? 50? Put it back. Let's do this again. It's not even a slap on the wrist. Like, to us, it sounds like a ton of money, but to JP Morgan Chase, they don't care.
Nothing.
Okay, here's the other half of that coin, though. Let's just call this what it is. If you somehow were able to execute a short squeeze on silver and actually get JP Morgan caught in all their future contracts, because let's say the price of silver ends up jumping up to $1,000 an ounce, and you have a contract at JP Morgan Chase to sell X amount of dollars of silver at $25 an ounce. You either got to unload your own bullion, or you've got to go buy it on the market at $1,000 an ounce and then sell it at $25. Both are losing propositions for you as a company. So it's not the silver they own, it's the future contracts that are the leverage on them. But if you did that, JP Morgan Chase is going out of business. You are upending the entire financial economic world. Everything comes crashing down at that point because other banks would also be caught up in this. The government doesn't have the capacity, ability, or funds to bail them out again. You're talking about massive levels of destruction. Now, I'm generally opposed to that. Not everybody is. And right now, the things on silver and everybody, it's not WallStreetBets. They've made that abundantly clear of, look, this isn't us. We're not telling you to do that. Like, we have two goals right now, GameStop and AMC. That's it. All the money goes into those two stocks until this thing goes to the moon and goes to Mars. And I mean, the idea has caught on. I don't know how this game ends, but things are forever different. Like, that's my point in all of this is people are starting to realize, people like me who I always knew this game was at least somewhat rigged, and these rich guys have their good old boys club where they look out for each other and like, oh, they're not going to take out another hedge fund.
Invited to an idea dinner?
I've never been invited to an idea dinner, no. But even the hedge funds, like, you're not going to go after another hedge fund because it's all the wealthy people that invest in both and they'd be mad at you. And it's Citadel with their foot in both camps are going to come down on you and be like, how could you do this to another hedge fund? The retail investors don't care. They don't. And now what we saw, this was what was so troubling on Thursday and Friday. They didn't even try to hide it. They think so little of the average person. Like Robinhood, even like you let the rich people in the concierge service buy it. You blocked everybody else and you allowed these guys to go cover their positions. You just robbed these people in broad daylight, in plain sight, stuck your middle finger in their face and said, because F you. That is what actually, it appears, happened on Thursday and Friday of last week. And
it's still happening today.
It's still happening today. And I'm taken aback, for lack of a better word, at just how brazen it was. Of like, you're not even trying to come up with a Well, it's a gray area. Nope. This is just blatant manipulation to benefit the wealthy at the expense of the common man. And that I find very, very troubling because the rules are the rules. You can't change the rules just because you lost this time. And now you're coming in here and clamoring for more regulation. The reality is you're going to clamor for more regulation because the government doesn't enforce the rules on you. They enforce the rules on the little guy who can't afford the top attorney in the entire world at $25,000 an hour. That's who ends up getting hurt by it. The guys who work in hedge funds and on Wall Street end up going to work for the federal government on the economic team, on the economic advisory, chairman of the Fed. And then when they're done there, they go back and they get a job speaking or consulting at all of these firms for millions of dollars at a time.
Yeah, Citadel paid the new Treasury Secretary $810,000 to speak.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure those words were worth it.
Yeah, she's
probably,
got her stuff
gave
together.
Ancient Chinese secrets and homemade recipes.
Right. And this is this insane part of all of this and why we got here in the first place. Like, if you look back at 2008 and what actually happened, 2008 was this perfect storm of stupidity, greed, and incompetence that culminated in an idea of using mortgage-backed securities, getting the rating agencies to slap a AAA secure rating on them. Pension funds have to invest a certain amount of their portfolio in AAA-rated securities. These junk mortgage securities are returning 20% a year. My government bond is doing 6%. All right, well, let's go get more because I gotta be able to stay competitive. And ultimately, they were junk, and nobody understood that. And the government, the ones who are supposed to be doing it, they were the ones slapping the AAA rating on them. I guess Moody's and S&P aren't technically government, but the regulatory authorities were allowing this to happen. They lose all the money, and then the Congress steps in and gives it back. They're like, oh, too big to fail. Good try, guys. Let's bail you all out. I mean, it's insanity because what you basically have is you have the capacity of these wealthy banks, hedge funds, and everybody else to privatize their gains but socialize their losses. There is no incentive for them to not take crazy risks like shorting 140% of a company. Because when they lose, we bail them out as taxpayers. We somehow bail them out. But when they win, they get to keep it. And please don't make the mistake of thinking this is a Republican versus a Democrat issue. It's not.
Yeah, like I said, we pointed out, AOC and Ted Cruz are on the same side of something, which is amazing.
If you look at the stock market, financial sector has increased by the day that Joe Biden got elected through inauguration, the financial sector increased like 38% in value. Banks went up by about 40% in value. And when they got the confirmed Georgia runoff went through and it was known it was going to be Democrat controlled, the Wall Street firms literally jumped 7% in a day. That's not an accident. Like, that's not because they're afraid of all the regulation that Wall Street.
It's like when Vegas knows the starting quarterback's not going to play and the line moves.
Right. You know what's happening here. And it's both sides. Republicans and Democrats are equally guilty of all of this nonsense. And here's the thing. Every time you try to step up the rules don't affect the big guys. They can get around them. It affects the people trying to compete with the big guys because they use the rules as a crudgeon, just hit you and keep you down. This is not a crazy conspiracy. This is just what happens. The similarities between this and what happened in 2008 are actually pretty striking. I'm not predicting like the economic downfall or anything else. But before we sign off, think about this. And I think I've said this to you in private conversation before. I don't think I've said this on the show. If you saw like a Great Depression-like event, all right, whether it's JP Morgan Chase collapsing, the government defaulting on debt, something like that basically shut down the country, causes hyperinflation, and causes a devaluation of the currency. I think if it happened today, it'd be worse than the Great Depression. Because at least back in the 1930s, people had basic life skills on how to grow or pick food. People understood how to grow something that they could eat. People understood how to preserve meat without refrigeration. People understood how to hunt, how to go and get their own food. We're useless now. Like, if you couldn't get to a grocery store, if a grocery store couldn't be restocked for 3 weeks, people would starve to death. They wouldn't know what to do. It would turn to madness, chaos, and crime because they have no ability to say like, oh yeah, think about if you couldn't go to a grocery store for the next 2 weeks. Could you make it?
Most people couldn't.
Most people could. Most people are going week to week. If 2 weeks would be like the absolute limit of what they could do on Survive. I mean, that's how crazy it would be. If you talk about a Great Depression, and here's the thing. Yeah, it's easy to say it'll never happen. Why not? Seriously.
I mean, it's going to happen. At some point, there's going to be, whether you want to call it a correction or a crash, things that go up come down. And, I don't know that 08, 09 ever ended, and this is just
we put a Band-Aid on
a reflation of the same bubble that was there then. So
yeah, we slapped that seal on the thing to stop that leak.
Yeah, we just moved the air around inside the bubble. So
and that's why you look at all the government debt and you look at what's happening here. And the reality is there are people out there, and you can agree or you can disagree with them, but their attitude is this government and this system are beyond redemption. This game is so rigged that it's got to come down. Consequences be damned. And it doesn't mean they're ignoring the consequences. It means they think it's worth it. I'm just telling you what's out there. And that number, the people who think that way, it's growing. It's not shrinking. The number of people.
Listen, it's an easy sell, right? If you're disgruntled and somebody's like, hey, this is a way to burn it all down. You're like, oh, I'm open to that.
Right. And listen, here's the reality. If you burn it all down, people will die.
At least they all have another $1,400 coming to invest in here pretty soon. So.
Those are my favorite. Like, I got to point this out because it's the funniest thing in the world. Literally, these Wall Street bets guys, they had a screenshot of a sell limit. So a sell limit is if the price hits a certain point, that's the limit of when you'll hold it and you sell. Automatically sell. You don't have to do anything about it. These guys put, I think it was 1,200 sell limit orders at $420, at $420. And then they put another 1,000 at $420.69. They are making weed and sex jokes with their actual trades on the stock. They are millions of dollars on the line, and they are making weed jokes.
Maniacs.
This is nuts.
I love it.
I can't fathom how this is a real thing.
I said I'm still... A week ago, we were like, maybe we'll have to talk about GameStop on the show. Holy hell. What a week made.
I put this on Facebook. I don't think people realize how big of a deal this actually is or what we're watching.
Like, I've been calling it a tremor, and I still think we're in a tremor, and I think it's, just a precursor of something much bigger and the big one, if you will.
And the government keeps, or not the government, but the establishment, let's call it that way, like Wall Street firms and SEC and everything else. Every time they do something like this or the government looks the other way and allows it to happen, these people get more galvanized, that it becomes more and more of, I don't care if I lose every dime, I am taking these people out. If they care this much that they're willing to do this blatantly illegal activity in broad daylight, then they obviously have a lot to lose, and I want to make sure they lose it. I hope I make money, but if I don't, as long as they go down, all worth it.
Yeah, I feel like they're just treating it like ones at the strip club. They're like, it's an experience. It's worth it. I know I'm never going to get this money back. I'm not going to get anything out of it, but here you go. Here's $50.
I mean, this is... I
love it.
Just mind-boggling to watch this all happen in real time. Like, these guys making weed and sex jokes are the ones who outmaneuvered a $13 billion hedge fund. They outmaneuvered him. And now the hedge fund is, like, crying for help from the refs, from their other rich friends to try to get bailed out on this. And it's so wrong. And I get why the hedge fund's doing it. Please don't misunderstand me. You lose $13 billion for the wealthiest people in the world, your life's not so pleasant moving forward. Yeah. That's just the reality. So I get it. I see both sides. My issue always comes down to you cannot have two sets of rules.
Like I said, none of this, maybe none of it, but like it was never going to be this if they weren't 138% short of the shares, right? So like everybody wants to talk about the retailers and them exploiting the wound, if you will, but it was a self-inflicted wound on their own part. And like I said,
greedy.
They
got greedy. Listen, again, if you go to England, 14% short sale interest. America, 140, 89, 90. Think about what that actually means. It means that people sold without owning 90% of a company. And now if they get called on it, they have to buy 90% of the company. And guess who's got to sell it? Thick Dad Bod 66. That's who you're trying to get to sell it to you. The guy that had literally $8,000 8 months ago that's now worth $10 million, and he doesn't care. Yeah. Like that's who you're trying to persuade to sell.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I love it. Anything else, Ben? Let's. We were a little bit over here, but let's.
No,
anything else you want to leave them? Any bit of enlightenment for the folks? Or
I got nothing.
Any financial advice you want to give out?
No, I'm not. Again, nothing is financial advice. I'm just trying to tell you the story as I see it
the story
from where
great.
it is.
Yeah, the story is great. I appreciate your expertise in the story. So,
I mean, expertise is a strong word, but I have some familiarity with this, and I cannot express to you, listen, if you're not paying attention to it, pay attention to it. But all these people trying to paint the Wall Street bets guys as like the bad guys who are trying to ruin things, maybe. But if you're trying to say the hedge funds, Wall Street, Robinhood contingent is the good guys in all of this, you're sorely mistaken. I'm sorry. What that Wall Street guys are doing, what the Wall Street bet guys are doing is arguably unethical. But it's what we've allowed these hedge fund managers to do for decades. So now it's not okay when it gets done to them. That's not okay. Sorry that you took this massive gamble, that you allowed yourself to be this leveraged, and that you never saw it coming that somebody would actually short squeeze you, and then it happened. Guess what? You played a game. You live with the consequences, whatever they are. That's how investing works. And these Wall Street guys are well aware that what they are doing is not investing. It's gambling. The site is called Wall Street Bets, not Investment Advice 101. Wall Street Bets. They are well aware that what they are doing is putting it all on black
YOLO.
And spinning the wheel. And I love when you use YOLO as a verb. It's the funniest thing in the world. I just YOLO'd $400,000 on GameStop. You are insane.
Maniacs. All right, folks. That'll do it. Hopefully that gave you at least a bit up to speed on all things GameStop, Wall Street Bets, Robinhood, and the like. We didn't even talk about DogeCoin. I mean, you asked me about it.
I did, because I had somebody ask me about it.
4 other people asked me about it. I know you were the first person to ever ask me about Dogecoin, and 3 more people asked me about Dogecoin in 2 days. So
Dogecoin is a cryptocurrency that was sounded as a joke. It was meant to be a joke.
But it's Elon's.
And the Reddit guys they're trying to pump it up. It literally it tripled.
It went from less than a penny to 7 cents.
I know. And then Robinhood stopped your ability to trade in it.
Yeah. All right.
This is crazy. Listen, you can say whatever you want about it's irresponsible and it's all fun and games until these guys lose all their money and they lose their house. No, it's still fun and games to them. I'm telling you. And if that happens to them, then it happens, because that is the way this works. If you're going to take crazy risks, you have to be willing to accept the punishment or the penalty when they go bad. I've had multiple clients call me and ask me about this, and I've made my opinion abundantly clear. Do whatever you want, but understand this is not investing at this point. This is gambling. This is you throwing the money. So if you want to buy it, God bless you. Do not put in more than you are prepared to lose. If you can't stomach the thought of losing $1,000, do not put $1,000 on this.
Well, there you go. Mr. Hussong, end us with some good life advice, as it turns out to be anyway.
In general terms.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please like the video here. We've migrated over here to YouTube, and we need all the interactions that we can get. So please like the video. Excuse me again. Subscribe to the channel. Share this with everybody that you think would be interested, and we'll see you all next week. I thank you very much.